Welcome, guys, to ILWPOD. This is the I Love Wrestling podcast. I'm your host, Justin Wright, as always. But today we have a wrestling photographer slash filmographer by the name of Sleepwalker,
Yep, Sleepwalker.
and we'll call you Arnley today.
Yep.
How we doing, man?
Real good, man. Thanks for having me. I'm super stoked to do this with you.
Of course. I told my one of my last guests, he was also a photographer, that this is all but the podcast is all about the love of wrestling, anything surrounding wrestling, not just wrestlers. So I'm glad that you would answer and say, "Yeah, I'd like to be on here." It's my privilege.
Awesome, man. Super stoked.
But before I start asking you any kind of questions or anything, would you like to plug your social medias or anything like that?
Yeah, my main one, Instagram, you can find me at I Am Sleepwalker, and that's SLPWLKR. No vowels. I'm on X. I'm also on TikTok, I guess for now. But yeah, all handles are all the same. I am Sleepwalker.
Nice, nice. Um, with wrestling in this podcast, I always start at the same spot.
Mhm.
And deep down, we're all fans of wrestling. I assume taking pictures of
Yeah.
them, you're also a fan. Um, how did you find wrestling, and when did you kind of fall in love with it?
Oh man, I think the first time I watched wrestling was I think I was maybe about like 11 or 12, and it was an episode of Heat, but it was back when it was on channel 26, the U, back in the day, and it was on like Saturday night at like 11 p.m. And I remember the first match I saw was with
Okay.
Rios, way back then, and then that was the first time I ever saw it, and I was like, "Yo, this is kind of fun, kind of sick." So, been a fan ever since.
Was he still with Lita at the
I
time, or
believe
was
so.
okay?
Yes. Yep.
That's I think it's crazy that people always forget that that's where Lita started. Like she was in
Yeah.
ECW, and then her WWF or WWE debut was with him. I think people always forget that. Like, so
And
it's cool.
she was also one of the Godfather's hoes, like back in the day.
Yeah, it's
So
crazy how they get started.
yeah, right. Yeah, but huge Lita fan, huge Hardy Boys fan. So when she transitioned to Team Extreme, I was super stoked.
Definitely. I'm probably like the biggest Jeff Hardy mark out there. I'm not gonna lie, I love Jeff
Same.
Hardy. I've had all his figures. Not to mention all the crazy stuff I've jumped off of for him. So
Yeah.
it's crazy. It's crazy that like this generation of fans and wrestlers is so enamored by Jeff, because like
Yeah.
I can't tell you the amount of wrestlers I've had on here that'll put him in their Mount Rushmore or their biggest
Mhm.
inspirations. It's kind of insane. And
Yeah.
like growing up, I thought I was the only one. So like it's great to see more.
I remember growing up, like I would always like jump off, like me and my little cousins, we would all kind of have our own little wrestling matches on couches and stuff. And me and my one cousin would always be the Hardy Boys, and I would just take long socks and cut little holes in them for the little arm sleeves,
Yep,
and just doing swantons off the couch.
that's great. Like, do you remember your first like in-person experience for wrestling?
Oh my gosh. I actually didn't get to go live until almost like high school,
Okay.
or like I think I was probably like junior high school, and I believe, oh my God. I want to say it was like a SmackDown at Allstate Arena.
Okay.
And then once I went to that initial one, then that's kind of like kind of, what do you call it? I started going more with me and my one friend. We started going to more WWE shows, and then eventually we started going to like AEW. Like we went to the first All In
Okay.
back when they did it at Sears Center. That was super sick.
So like the original All In.
Yep. Yeah. The one where they sold 10,000 tickets in like minutes.
That's badass.
Yeah.
Just because I'll give a shout out to it. I actually just recorded um a interview with Marty Skrull.
I was
and
like
got to
just watching that on your Instagram.
yeah, and it was that was quite the. He's never really talked about All In, so it was really
hmm
cool because I watched it live, and I didn't tell him this, but like that's probably the only match I went back and rewatched was his.
hmm
But like it's just so cool that that show was so revolutionary, and it still holds up
Yeah,
to this day. I
yeah,
remember
100%.
watching it like I can't believe this is actually taking place. What was that like? What was it like in that arena that night?
I mean, I think back then it was still called the Sears Center,
Yep.
and I lived like literally like not even 10 minutes away. But yeah, me and my one friend, we got tickets like the day of, and I think we got them on like StubHub, but we got them the day of, and it was just insane because like Rey Mysterio was there, Jericho was there, and it was so different being there versus like a WWE show, you know, like the only other indie shows that I went to were like AAW when it was in I forgot the name of the venue, but it was in like some bar in like Berwyn, I
Okay.
believe.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was like so different being in like an arena show that wasn't WWE at the time.
Did it feel like big league? Like did it feel like an indie show or did it feel in the arena did it feel like you was obviously not a WWE show but like
Yeah,
a WWE like show?
same level. Yeah, it definitely did. And because like the place was like jam packed with people, and that's kind of what like made me realize like, oh, there are a lot more wrestling fans like in Chicago. Because I mean, back in the day, it was like taboo. Like if you liked wrestling, you were kind of like ostracized or like, why do you like
You
wrestling?
were the
It's
weird
fake, you
kid
know?
for yeah.
Yeah. So like being there, it was like so cool seeing like people that like I actually like knew from like the music scene were there and were like wrestling fans too. So I didn't feel as weird about it, you know? It's like, oh, there's actually like a huge community for it.
At that time, had you started, taking pictures and doing your like filmmaking and stuff?
I was doing video for like music videos and bands. I was a touring videographer before this.
Okay,
So I hadn't done any wrestling videography at all up to this point. I was mainly just going like as a fan.
okay. How did you get into videography? Was it just something you picked up in high school, or did you go to school and stuff for it?
So my background was I was in a band. I was a musician way before this, and one of the guys that I was in a band with, he was like an up and coming videographer. He was doing music videos and just like making vlogs and stuff. And I think I was around like 18, 19, and I he kind of like introduced me to it, and I was like, oh, this is actually kind of sick. Like, let me make some music videos. And his name is Phil, super good on Instagram. If you follow him, he does a bunch of food reviews now. Um, but yeah, he got me into like videography and just like making short films, and we would like go on like random road trips together, and we would just like make little like montage videos, and I like fell in love with it, and then just started doing music videos from then.
What kind of artists have you been able to make music videos for?
A lot of metalcore bands in
Okay,
Chicago. I've also been able to do, I worked with Secrets, My Children, My Bride on like a more national level, I guess.
okay,
Um, but I played in a band called Capture the Crown back then, and I got to do a lot of like, I guess, tour video recaps,
okay,
kind of like what I do for wrestling, but I would do it for a show, just like
okay.
each night.
And like, was that just for like one night of the show, or would you follow throughout each night of the show and then kind of put like a compilation of the whole tour together?
So I would do it like each night.
Okay.
So I would be out on the road for like 6 weeks at a time and then film a show and then literally edit it right there and then edit it into the morning, post it the next day. And I have to do that every night.
How long did you do that for?
Oh man, I want to say like 6, 7 years.
Okay.
And then finally it's like, it's not really paying the bills. It's time to put the grown-up pants on now, not young whippersnapper anymore. So, I mean, I'll get to do it like once in a while if it's a really cool band or if the opportunity is right and timing is right, I'll definitely do it.
So like what like brought you to transition to doing the wrestling stuff?
So I was filming a music video for a band called East Moon. And their guitarist, Jacob, he actually works at Pro Wrestling Tees. And I met, well, not really met, but Matt Nix was there, who was promoter for freelance and also a wrestler. And he was there like helping out, and we kind of were talking about cameras. He had a camera with him, just filming like behind the scenes stuff. And he had brought up like freelance, and I can't remember like the exact conversation, but I told him that like I've always wanted to do like videography for wrestling, and he had said that, oh, we just lost our guy. He went to like AEW. So he literally brought me out to an Emporium show like I want to say like a month later, and I filmed their show. It was Injustice, and that was an Emporium, and I've been doing it ever since now, every month.
What promotions have you been able to work for other than freelance?
Uh, done freelance, CSW, Third Coast. I believe got to do one Black Label Pro show, Crowning Glory. I believe that's it for now. Like I just started doing it just last March, so I'm only
Okay.
like 9, 10 months in, but I'm always looking for more.
I mean, it's still quite the a litany of promotions, especially in the Chicago area. I think
Yeah,
you've definitely covered your bases. Um,
yeah,
so
definitely.
far, would you consider any one of those home, or do you go to all of them whenever?
I since I started out at freelance and I did their videos for about like 3, 4 months, and then I missed probably like the last 4 shows because I've had like scheduling conflicts. I also run a wedding production company on the side,
Okay.
and every show that they had, I've always had a wedding to do, so I wasn't able to make it. And in that time frame too, I had started doing work with CSW. And since then, I've just been there every month. I mean, I love all promotions that I get to work with. I love them all. So I don't really want to say I have a home promotion, but I mean,
Okay.
I'm at CSW a lot more, and I just love working with anyone and everyone that will let me, you know?
Yeah, I agree. As a podcaster, if I kind of go the same way. Wherever I go and people want to talk, I'm all for it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I've noticed it works best that way. Whenever you
Yeah,
just are happy to work for whoever, um, it seems to come to you a lot easier than you out there searching for the right thing. If you're just like gun ho and like, hey, I'll take on all comers. Let's figure this out. It works a lot better.
exactly. Exactly. I
So
agree
far,
100%.
so far doing videography, like who would you say is like your um favorite guy or girl that you've been able to work with and help them create something?
Oh man, that's a tough one. I mean, lately, since I've been doing a lot of CSW, like everyone at CSW has been just amazing to work with. And I mean, everyone in the past too, like freelance, like everyone I've worked with has been absolutely incredible. And the thing that I love is like everyone is always so down to just do stuff. Like for example, the last CSW show, the season premiere, we had this original idea to go to like a studio and just film and do like a little pre-tape, I guess you could call it, but that obviously fell through. So day of, Missa and I were just like brainstorming like 2, 3 hours before the show, and she's like, "Why don't you just film a bar fight? Just film a bar fight in the bar." So we literally like conceptualized this whole thing in a matter of like 30, 45 minutes. We spread the word to everyone. It's like, hey, we're gonna start filming at this time, getting gear, and then we're just gonna do it. And everyone has just been so down to do it, like no questions asked. And I guess to your main question, I just love working with everyone. Everyone's just so open. I can't really say that there's a favorite.
Fair enough. I've seen on like your socials, and I believe this was for the CSW show, but you've got to
Yeah.
work with like Matt Cardona. Um,
Yes.
what was that like?
Oh man, I was so intimidated. Because I mean, like, he was on TV, former WWE superstar, current indie god, all that. And it's just like going up to him, he was in the back, just kind of warming up. I didn't get to meet him before the show because wow, we were all running around. And I saw him in the back just warming up for the match, and I just went up to him and was like, "Hey, I'm Arnley Sleepwalker. Do you mind if we get some quick shots of you?" And he was just like, "Yeah, man, let's do it." Like it was like 2 minutes, and he was just so cool about it.
Okay.
But yeah, super, super cool dude.
You know, I I have a certain level of respect for him. Like when I was there, I obviously I saw him. I was like, "Yeah, you want to get on the podcast?" And he
Yeah.
was very honest. He was like, "No, I don't have time." But like,
Mhm.
I even went back up after there was nobody around. I just met like the first time I went, there was tons of people around him. So I saw like right before he left to go back and get ready,
Yeah.
he was alone, and I was like, I'm gonna take the shot. Maybe it was because he was around people. It never hurts to ask twice. And
Yeah.
he was like, "Look, kid, I respect it. I respect what you're doing, but I just can't. I don't have time." So like, he's not a bad guy. He probably gets more hate than he deserves.
Yeah. I mean, he was super cool. So, and I mean, gotta respect that he was honest about it. So,
Yeah. Well, like something I talked to, I want to say it was Eric Schultz, who also works with CSW.
yeah.
I talked to him about, and I was like, I just respected the fact that he didn't give me hope. Like he didn't take a
Mm,
card and say, "Yeah, I'll do it," and then never call me back or never message me
yeah.
back. He was just upfront. Like I think that was the thing that I respected most about it. It's like, "Hey, I can't do it. I don't want to. Like I'm not going to do it. I don't have time, and I'm not going to give you hope." And I was like, "Okay, that's fair," because
I
I've had guys be like, "Yeah, I'll do it," and then you never hear
just
from
won't hear
them.
back. Yeah. Yeah.
Have you ever
Yeah.
came across anything like that doing your field work?
Oh man. I can't off the top of my head, I can't really remember because usually when I'm like filming all this stuff, like we're usually doing it like at the show and it's like, hey, do you have time? Like, let's go do it. Like
It's a bit different.
I've yeah, I've never really had the chance to like kind of like message someone like weeks prior and be like, hey, let's shoot something, blah blah blah, you know. It's mainly just like I could go up to them like day of, and if they have a free moment, then let's do it. If not, like I get it, they have stuff to do before their matches, like their mind is elsewhere. So I just take it with a grain of salt if I get declined, you know.
Fair enough. Is doing the wrestling stuff and the wedding stuff, is that the
Yeah.
only kind of videography or film or photography that you do, or is there any other genres or places that you do it at?
Yeah, I guess right now it's mainly the wedding film production company that takes up a bulk of my time. And then obviously wrestling as well. Before wrestling, it was mainly music videos, but I've kind of shifted just completely away from music videos and just kind of focused on wedding and wrestling now.
Okay. Do you do like all the, I don't want to say all, but do you do any of the like promotional stuff for like the CSW shows or the freelance shows or stuff like that?
I try and do kind of like if the wrestlers want to meet up and like shoot a quick promo, stuff like that. At
Okay.
CSW, Derek kind of takes care of putting the show together and putting all the graphics together. That's mainly his bread and butter. I'll mainly just do like the highlight reel and just getting B-roll stuff and just like I shot one with Missa and edited some of Amina's promo clips. So
That's
that's
cool.
mainly it.
What would you say like as far as this career path are you like your goals for it? Like if you had a goal or you like something you wanted to achieve, how far would you like to take it?
I mean, obviously, like, full time at any of the big leagues would be awesome. But I'm just kind of enjoying it right now and not putting too much stress and I guess not stressing too much about where I'm gonna be in like 5 years. I'm kind of just enjoying it and just having fun creating.
Yeah, I think that's the most important part is just enjoying your creation. Um,
Yeah,
in anything, whether it's, photography, videography, podcasting, um, wrestling, like just enjoying your craft is probably the most important part. Because if you're not enjoying it, why are you doing it?
exactly. Exactly. And I've always had just like experiences in the past where I will like focus too much on like what the end goal is that I'll completely not like what I'm doing and just
Yes.
completely drop it.
Earlier I brought up Marty and Marty's girl, and like one reason, like I went back because I'll be honest, I didn't rewatch the match until right before I did the interview, and I was like,
Yeah.
and it was one of those things I did all this studying and trying to find, what questions to ask and stuff like that, and I was like, I don't think I've taken the time in this process to enjoy what he did or why I wanted to do this in the first place. So
Yeah.
that's why I was like, you know what, I'm gonna turn on a match, I'm gonna sit down as a fan, and I'm gonna watch it, and it 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 matters taking those times to actually just enjoy it and soak it in.
Exactly. And I feel like it'll just come natural to you, like what you were looking to get out of, like the questions, like if you
Yeah,
just watch it as a fan, they'll just naturally come to you.
definitely. And does like when you are, in the heat of the moment and like let's say they're in matches and they're doing matches and you're trying to take pictures or take video, do you ever get lost in the match and forget to click away?
So it's funny you say that. I just like leave my camera on the whole time and I will literally just try and capture what I can. But a lot of the times like I will find myself like watching the actual match versus what's going on in my camera and I'm like, "Oh my God, like this looks like crap." Like I need to pay attention to my camera. But yeah, it's just so cool like being up close and sometimes like if you're paying attention too much to the match and like I've gotten hit with the barricade before just from wrestlers throwing each other to the other side and then the barricade will come smacking me in the back. Stuff like that. But yeah, it's very easy to just get lost in the match up close.
What's it like being on the other side of the barricade? Because most of us are stuck on one side, but you get to be up close and personal. Is like, what's that experience like?
It's exciting. It's an adrenaline rush, especially when there's big spots happening. Like at the same time, you gotta also pay attention. Like, I mean, like you don't want your camera to get smacked out of your hand or get kicked out.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's a lot of fun. I mean, both sides of the barricade, I think it's just fun.
definitely. And like, I guess another question I've always wondered is like, um, you told us the story of how you kind of got involved with freelance. What's
Yeah.
it like trying to get involved with other companies? Is it easier once you're in the door one place, or is it still like kind of difficult to get in to work with other promotions?
Yeah, that's a good question. Um, I don't want to say it's easy or I don't want to, it helps to have a portfolio, I guess. Like
Okay.
if I want to find another promotion or if I'm like interested, like, hey, I really want to shoot this show. I'll message them and like, hey, if you guys need a videographer, I'm more than happy to offer my services and they'll just check out my page and then I'll go from there.
Okay. Um, do you have any big events or anything like that coming up that you're excited to go to and, get some shots in?
As of right now, honestly, I don't think I have anything big planned. The only promotion that I have planned out right now is CSW every month.
Okay.
But right now, this time of year, like weddings have kind of taken up a lot of my free time. I was supposed to shoot House of Glory last weekend, but obviously it was the same day as CSW. So I, I would love to go back to House of Glory. I believe they're coming back in May, so that would be another cool show to shoot.
That's one whenever I was originally going to go to House of Glory myself,
Yeah.
and I realized it was the same day as CSW. And that week I had talked to probably four or five of the guys and girls that were involved in the show.
Mhm.
Like I talked to I got to talk to Conan Lycan. I know he didn't get to make it, but I got to do
Yeah.
an interview with him. Missa, which she's incredible.
Yeah.
Quintero and Black Sheep FXB. So like,
Yeah.
I was really like, I was like, I gotta go now. All these guys are expecting me to be there. So like, I've never been to a House of Glory show. So like
Yeah.
part of me was I don't want to say let down, but like I was like, oh shoot, it's the same day. But I told these guys I'd be there. So like I'm really hoping the next House of Glory show doesn't collide with CSW because
Yeah.
I'd love to be able to go to the because I saw the House of Glory like clips and like it was obviously crazy. Like I know
hmm
Mustafa Ali was there in place of
Zilla.
Zilla.
Yeah.
Um, Gringo Loco and Erez were on that show along with the CSW
Yeah,
show.
they I did not know that they
Uh,
were doing double duty that night.
I actually, I guess this is an exclusive. Conan Lycan told me that the after our interview, so we talked
Yeah.
afterwards, and he was like, "Just so you know, like Gringo might be a little late," and I was like, "Why?" And he's like, he's got a double shot that night. He got to
Yeah.
wrestle at House of Glory, and it's like 40 minutes away. And I was like,
Mhm.
oh shoot. So like it was really cool that we got to like at least witness them come and do a 15-minute match on top of the 15-20 minute match they did over there.
Yeah.
Um, and they're incredible. Like I've seen Gringo once. I've never
Mhm.
seen Erez in person, and they
Dude,
are
he's
absolutely
insane.
phenomenal.
Yeah. I think that match was my third time filming them. I filmed the House of Glory match that they were in together. It was like I think it was a six-man scramble, and Ares and Gringo were also in it. And yeah, man, House of Glory gets pretty it gets pretty wild.
It's definitely a hot ticket. Kind of like
Yeah.
I think GCW is coming to town soon.
Yeah,
Also a hot ticket. Like there's a lot of great promotions coming through Chicago. Is it
absolutely.
with them all coming through here? Does that get you excited? Like, hey, I got to go to these shows and see if I can get some shots in.
I mean, yeah, it does. I don't tend to normally like chase them. I per se like I know they have like their set crews and everything. Like that's all cool and everything. Like I would love to shoot it if the opportunity is presented, you know. I definitely wouldn't turn it down. But I'm like all about growing like hometown talent. Like all the shows they have like big names and established like I feel like a lot I wouldn't say a lot, but people will be like, oh, I need to go shoot Mustafa or I need to go shoot Cardona. Like I need to go to House of Glory versus CSW, you know? But I think it's important to also help local talent like grow because I mean they're the future of like the industry. It's
Yeah,
like you want to help push them and like make them also look like stars so that they can get up to promotions like House of Glory or GCW stuff like that. So obviously I would love to, but it's not like a necessity for me.
okay. Something before I get off the air, I always ask, and it's kind of a fun
Yeah.
question. Um, there's always a debate on Mount Rushmore. I'm interested to
Oh
know who
man.
your top four guys are. Just your
Oh
personal.
man. The Mount Rushmore. Obviously number one, Jeff Hardy, and Matt. If I can, I guess, would they count as two, or can I just put Team Extreme as one?
Do you want to? How's this? Do you want to do a tag team one and a regular one?
Oh man. Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
Okay. Okay.
All right. Tag teams. Gotta go with Team Extreme. Number one up there. Obviously, you gotta pay respect to Edge and Christian and Dudley is like
That'd
those three teams like together. I wish I was doing videography in that era. I
have been
would
insane.
love to create stuff like that. I don't want to say Los Guerreros.
Okay.
Those
I like it.
are that's my Mount Rushmore. For singles, man, I gotta put Jeff Hardy back up there. He's like my fate. My little brother actually got me a Jeff Hardy replica title, the one that he had in
That's
TNA.
badass.
Oh, dude, I opened that like Christmas Eve, opened it and literally just yelled the loudest I could because I one, I didn't know they made replicas of it, and two, it's a sick title.
Was that
So
recent? Like, do they still make
yeah.
replicas of it?
He actually, yeah, it was last Christmas, just last month he got it for me.
That's
So
insane.
yeah, I guess it's not like a TNA official replica. There's people that it was like an Etsy, I guess, that he got it from, but it's still so badass.
Yeah,
So
look, it's cool to have that in the collection for sure.
exactly. So I got to put Jeff up there. The Rock. I'm a big Rock fan. He was also one of my favorites growing up. Recently, I got to put Roman up there. Also love Roman. Love the tribal chief.
He's our tribal chief.
Yeah. And four, man, I gotta see Jay White. Jay White is another one of my
Okay.
favorites.
I haven't heard that. I like it.
Yeah,
I
I
was
love
such
Jay
a big
White.
Switchblade fan when he hit Kenny with that Blade Runner, whenever they
Yeah,
originally were going to
oh,
put him in Bullet Club. I
yeah,
instantly was like, Dad, you got to see this guy. And my dad, he's not a big fan of New Japan. Like, getting him to
yeah,
watch New Japan if it's not Kenny and Jericho was impossible.
yeah.
Um, so like I was like, Dad, this is so cool. He's like, I don't care. And like now I don't know how you cannot like Jay White. He's just so
Dude,
smooth in the ring. Like the way
he
he hits
just
that freaking switchblade is
mhm.
crazy.
And he just looks like a badass too.
Yes.
Like all those guys, they just have like this like pro wrestler aura about them. That's like, you know, they look like pro wrestlers.
With Jay White, this is something like I don't think I've ever said it out loud, but like
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I prefer Jay White with no facial hair. Like clean cut Jay
Oh,
White.
without the big goatee.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, like maybe it's just I really enjoyed him like in New Japan as was he part of Chaos? I want to say it was part of
Because
Chaos.
yeah. I feel
That
like
was like my favorite.
I'm like indifferent on the facial hair. I mean, I feel like he just looks like a little kid with no facial hair at the same time. But that dude
Fair
is like
enough.
insanely ripped at the same
Yes.
time.
So it's like it's crazy. I don't know. Jay White's
Yeah.
just so badass. I like
Yeah.
also how like his attire is very simple.
Yeah.
It's always pretty much the same design, but he throws it in so many different colors and don't like so many different variations that it doesn't matter. Like
And then that leather
every
jacket.
new look it just works. And like
Yeah.
I know it's a little thing, but he wears that switchblade necklace, which I
Yes.
always
Yeah.
thought was dope. I was like, I want one of those so
I've
bad.
always same. I've always wanted one because it just looks sick, and I love that Switchblade logo. It's just so simple,
Yes.
but it's like so. I don't know. There's maybe it's also like tied to the whole like New Japan and just like that Japanese culture. But I feel like the Switchblade is just so it's badass.
You know, I really liked his Titantron and I think it was New Japan where it was just the necklace swinging back and forward.
Hmm.
Like it was so simple, but
Yeah,
like as soon as the music hit and that opened, you know exactly who it was.
yeah,
And like another thing I always noticed was Japanese crowds, you know, they're uh, synonymous for just kind of clapping, being very
yeah.
quiet. But like
Very different from American crowds.
for Jay White, for Kenny, for certain people, they pop. And
Yeah,
like that, as soon as the music hit and that Titantron hit, Jay White was coming out. That crowd exploded, which was really cool because it doesn't happen
yeah.
over there.
I really wish that he was I wish he was in AEW when All In was happening. It would have been so sick. I haven't gotten to see Jay White wrestle in person yet, but that would have been so cool if he was a part of All In.
Definitely, you know, he's one of those guys that is on. If I had to make a list of like top guys I'd want on here, he's on there
Man,
for
shoot
sure.
him a message. You gotta try.
I've I think I've hit him up. I love wrestlers, but they don't like to answer their DMs.
That's fair. Fair.
Yes, but he's on there. Eventually it'll happen.
It'll happen one day. It'll happen.
You know, but before I let you off here, I always end with like try to end it in a positive note, is like the most positive note possible.
Yeah,
Um, and something I've always enjoyed is getting advice. Um, do you have any advice for somebody that would like to be a videographer, photographer, um, anything like that?
man. Um, Work hard, always study your craft. Like my one thing is like I try and tell people is like never settle with your work. Like always try and improve, always try to perfect it. Like always try to be better than what you were making yesterday, as cliche as that sounds, but and show face at promotions, be nice to everyone, introduce yourself, say hi to everyone. But yeah, for the most part, just keep honing your craft. And practice makes perfect.
I like it. Man, thank you so much.
Thank
If
you,
you ever
man.
want to
It's a
come
lot of
back on
fun.
here, if you ever want to come back on,
Absolutely.
yes, sir. So I will leave it at, see you later.
I was, hell yeah, man. Definitely would love to come back. This is so much fun.
I can't wait for the next time, man.
Likewise.